Hello and welcome to the Minimum Competence episode for Friday, August 16th, 2024. I'm your host for today, Andrew Leahy, a tax and technology attorney from New Jersey. On today's episode, we cover India's cautious legal market opening to foreign firms, TikTok's court appeal against U.S. claims, California's vote-by-mail system ruling, GSK's Zantac lawsuit, and Bayer's Roundup case win. Let's remember, music can name the unnameable and communicate the unknowable, and read today's legal news. On this day in legal history, August 16th, 1918, Lothar Witzke became the first German spy convicted by the United States during World War I. Tried by a military commission at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, Witzke was found guilty of espionage for his role in sabotage activities against the U.S., including his alleged involvement in the Black Tom explosion, a major act of sabotage in 1916. His conviction marked a significant moment in the U.S.'s efforts to counter German espionage during the war. Witzke was sentenced to hang, but his fate took a turn when President Woodrow Wilson commuted his sentence on May 27th of 1920. The commutation reflected the complexities of wartime justice and international relations. Later, in 1922, President Calvin Coolidge granted Witzke a pardon, leading to his deportation to Berlin. Witzke's case highlighted the U.S. government's determination to crack down on espionage while also navigating the diplomatic and political nuances of post-war justice. India's legal market is cautiously opening to foreign law firms under new guidance allowing them to practice international law within the country. However, only a few firms have taken steps to establish a presence, as many remain hesitant due to past challenges and uncertainties about the implementation of these new rules. India's rapid economic growth and favorable business environment under Prime Minister Narendra Modi make it an attractive prospect for foreign firms, but the memory of previous failed attempts and local opposition leads many to adopt a wait-and-see approach. Some firms are opting for strategies like the fly-in, fly-out model, running operations from nearby locations like Singapore. Others, like Baker McKenzie and Dentons, are planning to establish offices when permitted, but are currently working through collaborations with local firms. Japan-based TNY Legal and GVA Professional have already entered the Indian market to support their clients' growing needs. Despite the opportunities, significant hurdles remain, including unclear regulations and potential resistance from the local bar. Implementing legislation is still required, and foreign firms face a complex bureaucracy. The possibility of limits on foreign registrations to protect Indian firms adds to the uncertainty, making the path forward for foreign law firms in India fraught with challenges. TikTok is challenging a U.S. law firm requiring its parent company, China-based ByteDance, to sell its U.S. assets or face a ban, arguing that the U.S. Department of Justice has misrepresented the app's ties to China. TikTok maintains that its data and content moderation decisions for U.S. users are handled within the U.S. and that the law infringes on its free speech rights. The law, signed by President Biden, aims to end Chinese ownership of TikTok due to national security concerns. The case will be heard by a federal appeals court in September, just before the November presidential election. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld California's vote-by-mail system, ruling that it does not violate the constitutional rights of in-person voters, even if some invalid mailed ballots are occasionally counted. The court rejected the claim that counting these ballots dilutes the votes of in-person voters, emphasizing that such errors do not disproportionately affect any one particular group. The decision arose from a lawsuit aimed to decertify California's 2020 election results, which, if successful, could have favored Donald Trump. The court found that the plaintiff's vote dilution theory was legally unfounded, consistent with rulings from other circuits. GSK plans to seek the dismissal of a Zantac-related lawsuit in Florida, where plaintiffs allege the heartburn drug caused prostate cancer. This follows a recent Florida court ruling in GSK's favor, which excluded expert testimony linking ranitidine, Zantac's active ingredient, to prostate cancer. The ruling aligns with a 2022 federal court decision that dismissed similar cancer-related claims. However, a Delaware court ruling in June allowed over 70,000 lawsuits to proceed, permitting expert testimony that Zantac does cause cancer. GSK is appealing the Delaware decision as the majority of Zantac cases are concentrated there. Concerns over ranitidine's potential to degrade into the carcinogen NDMA led to the FDA pulling Zantac from the market 5 years ago. Bayer achieved a legal victory as a U.S. appeals court ruled that federal law shields the company from liability in a lawsuit claiming its Roundup weed killer causes cancer. The Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Philadelphia decided that federal regulations, which require uniform pesticide labeling, preempted Pennsylvania state law from mandating a cancer warning on Roundup. This ruling came in response to a lawsuit by David Schaffner, a landscaper diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, who argued that Bayer's Monsanto unit failed to warn consumers about the cancer risk. The decision could lead to a U.S. Supreme Court review due to conflicting rulings from other federal appeals courts. This could potentially impact Bayer's broader litigation risk. Bayer, which has settled much of the Roundup litigation for $10.9 billion but still faces tens of thousands of claims, welcomed the ruling, asserting that Roundup and its active ingredient glyphosate are safe. And with that, and as always, I thank you so much for listening to Minimum Competence, your daily news podcast for lawyers. If you're looking for more than minimum competence, links to further reading on all the topics touched on today are in the show notes. And reviews go a long way towards helping new listeners to find our show. If you have a moment and can leave a rating or review on your podcast player, we'd sure appreciate it. And if you know someone that might be interested in a story we cover, consider sending them the episode. But remember, nothing here should be construed as legal advice because it is certainly not that. Minimum Competence is available at minimumcomp.com and wherever it is you get your finely crafted podcasts. If you haven't checked out the website in a while, give it a look. There are complete transcripts and resources for each episode and its corresponding segments, as well as an opportunity to receive new episodes in email, newsletter, form. We'll see you back here on Monday, and until then, note, we are continuing our stated aim to close out the week of shows with a musical piece to feature. That will make these Friday episodes seem especially long. We hope you'll stick it out and enjoy the featured piece, but if music, and specifically classical music, isn't your bag, we get it. Our mouth sounds unrelated to the week's closing theme end here. This week's closing theme is by Franz Schubert. This week's closing theme brings us to the world of Franz Schubert, a composer whose music bridges the classical and romantic eras with remarkable emotional depth and lyrical beauty. Schubert, born in Vienna in 1797, was a prolific composer despite his tragically short life, leaving behind a vast body of work that continues to resonate with audiences today. Among his numerous compositions, his piano quintet in A major, known as the Trout Quintet, and his symphonies are often celebrated. But today, we focus on one of his masterpieces in chamber music, his piano quintet in F minor, opus 15. The first movement of that piece, Allegro con fuoco ma non troppo, showcases Schubert's unique ability to blend intensity with elegance. The title, which translates to fast with fire but not too much, perfectly encapsulates the movement's spirit. It opens with a passionate and fiery theme that immediately captures the listener's attention, setting the stage for a dynamic interplay between the piano and strings. As the movement progresses, Schubert masterfully balances this intensity with moments of lyrical beauty, creating a musical narrative that is both dramatic and profoundly moving. This piece exemplifies Schubert's gift for melody and his deep understanding of the human experience, qualities that have endeared his music to generations of listeners. As you listen to the Allegro con fuoco ma non troppo, let yourself be carried by its sweeping phrases and the emotional journey it offers, a true testament to Schubert's genius. Without further ado, the first movement of Franz Schubert's Fantasy in C major, opus 15, popularly known as the Wanderer Fantasy. Enjoy.